The red lights filled the war room aboard the GSS Aegis. Admiral Deho stood in front of the big screen. His hands were behind his back. His face looked tired and old. He was 63 years old and had seen many wars. The screen showed many red dots. These were enemy ships. The Vrakoth Empire had come to destroy Earth. There were so many of them. Too many. Commander Hiyori stood next to him. She was younger, only 35. She had short black hair and sharp eyes. She looked at the screen and then at the Admiral. She knew what he was thinking. They did not have enough ships. They did not have enough soldiers. Most of their fleet was destroyed last week at Kepler Station. She was one of the few who survived that battle. The memory still hurt. Ambassador Kira walked into the room. She was from another planet called Thessia. Her skin was pale blue and her eyes were purple. She looked at the screen and shook her head. Her voice was soft but sad. "We should stop fighting," she said. "We should ask for peace. Maybe the Vrakoth will let us live if we surrender now." Deho turned to look at her. His dark eyes were hard like stone. He had scars on his face from old battles. Each scar had a story. Each story was about friends who died. "Humans do not surrender," he said quietly. His voice was calm but strong. "Not while we can still fight." Ambassador Kira looked confused. She did not understand. Her people fought differently. When they lost too many soldiers, they stopped fighting. That was normal. That was smart. But humans were different. "But Admiral," Hiyori said, "we lost 70% of our fleet. Most of our soldiers are dead. The Vrakoth will reach Earth in 2 days. We do not have time." Deho smiled. It was a small smile. A strange smile. Like he knew something nobody else knew. "How many veterans live in the Sol system?" he asked. Hiyori looked at her tablet computer. Her fingers moved fast across the screen. Numbers appeared. She looked up at him. "About 400 million, sir," she said. "But they are not soldiers anymore. They are old. They work normal jobs now. They are farmers, teachers, shop owners. Most have not fought in 20 or 30 years. Some are very old, 70, 80, even 90 years old." Deho nodded. His smile grew bigger. The other people in the room looked at each other. They did not understand what he was thinking. "Perfect," Deho said. Ambassador Kira stepped forward. Her purple eyes were wide. She looked worried now. "Admiral, you cannot mean to send old people to fight. They will die. This is not right." Deho turned to face everyone in the room. There were people from many different planets there. All of them were leaders. All of them looked afraid. They thought Earth was finished. They thought humanity was going to die. "You do not understand," Deho said. "You think I want to use old people because I am desperate. You are wrong. I want to use them because they are our best weapon." He pointed at the screen. The red dots were getting closer to Earth. Time was running out. The Vrakoth think they have already won. They think we are weak. They think we are broken. They are right about one thing. We do not have many young soldiers left, but they are wrong about something very important." He paused. Everyone was listening now. Even Ambassador Kira was quiet. They think old soldiers are weak soldiers. They think age makes warriors useless. But humans are different. When we stop being soldiers, we do not forget how to fight. We never forget. Every day, every year, we think about war. We study it. We remember it. Those old people you talk about, they have been preparing for this fight their whole lives. Yori understood now. Her eyes went wide. She looked at her admiral with new respect. "You want to recall all veterans," she said. "The emergency protocol," Deho nodded. He looked at Huri. "Send the message," he said. "Every veteran in the Sol system is now a soldier again. I do not care how old they are. If they can hold a gun, they fight." Hiyori started typing on her tablet. The other officers in the room began working too. They were sending the message to every human settlement. Mars, the moon, the asteroid stations, everywhere humans lived. The message was simple and clear. Ambassador Kira shook her head. She still did not believe this would work. "This is madness," she whispered. "You are sending grandparents to fight a war." Deho walked to the window. He looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was waiting. His home, the home of all humans. He would not let it die. "No, Ambassador," he said without turning around. "I am not sending grandparents to fight. I am waking up 400 million warriors who never really stopped being warriors. The Vrakoth wanted to fight humanity. Now they will learn what that really means." The message went out across the solar system. On every human device, the same words appeared. They were words that had not been used in over 100 years. "Emergency recall protocol activated. All veterans report for immediate duty. Your planet needs you. One more time. Deho watched as the message spread like fire across all human worlds. He knew what would happen next. He knew because he understood his people. Humans did not forget their training. They did not forget their duty, and they never ever forgot how to fight. In homes across the solar system, old men and old women saw the message. Some were 70 years old. Some were 80. Some were even older. They had lived quiet lives for many years. They had families. They had jobs. They had peace. But when they saw the message, something changed in their eyes. Something old and hard came back. Something that never really left. They went to their closets, their storage rooms, their attics. They found their old uniforms. They found their old weapons. They cleaned them. They checked them. And they prepared to fight. Because that is what humans do. They answer the call. Always. Ambassador Kira watched the screens as millions of responses came back. Veterans were reporting to military stations. They were leaving their homes. They were saying goodbye to their families. And they were doing it without question. Without hesitation, she turned to Admiral Deho. Her voice was very quiet now. I do not understand your species, she said. How can old people fight like this? How can they still be warriors? Deho finally turned to look at her. His old face was calm. His eyes were clear and strong. Because we never stop being warriors, Ambassador. Your people train soldiers and then retire them. You throw away all their knowledge and experience. Humans do not work that way. When we retire, we take everything we learned with us. We think about it. We study it. We improve it. And when the call comes again, we are ready. We are always ready. He looked back at the screen. The Vrakoth fleet was still coming. But now humanity was preparing. 400 million veterans were preparing. The greatest fighting force in human history was about to take the field. And the Vrakoth had no idea what was coming for them. The sun was setting on Mars Colony 7. The red dust in the air made the sky look like fire. Major Junho was in his garden. He was 71 years old. His hands were dirty from working with the plants. He grew tomatoes and carrots. It was peaceful work. Good work. He liked it. His wife Minseo was inside their small house making dinner. They had been married for 45 years. They had children and grandchildren. Life was good. The wars were over. At least, that is what Junho thought. Then his wrist computer started beeping. A blue light appeared above it. It was a hologram. A face appeared. It was Admiral Deho. Junho knew that face. Everyone in the military knew that face. The Admiral looked serious. This is Admiral Deho to all veterans, the message said. Emergency recall protocol is active. You are soldiers again. The Vrakoth Empire is attacking. Earth will be destroyed in 2 days. We need you. One more time. The message ended. Junho stood very still. The tomato plant in his hand started to shake. His hands were shaking. But not from fear, from something else. Something he had not felt in 40 years. He had retired from the military when he was 31. That was 40 years ago. He fought in the Centauri campaign. It was a terrible war. He saw many friends die. He was hurt 3 times. They gave him medals. Purple hearts, they called them. He put them in a drawer and tried to forget. But he never forgot. Not really. Every night he dreamed about the war. Every day he thought about tactics and strategies. When he watched the news about battles, he studied them. He played war games on his computer. He read military history books. He taught young people about fighting and survival. He told himself it was just a hobby, just something to keep his mind sharp. But deep down, he knew the truth. He was still a soldier. He never stopped being a soldier. Junho looked at his hands. They were old hands, wrinkled and scarred, but they were still strong. He made a fist. Then he smiled. Minseo, he called out. Get my kit from storage. His wife came out of the house. She saw his face and understood immediately. She did not cry. She did not argue. She just nodded and went to get his military equipment. She knew this day might come. She married a soldier. He retired, but he never really stopped being a soldier. 3 hours later, Junho arrived at the military rally point. It was a big open area near the colony center. Thousands of people were there. All of them were old, gray hair and white hair everywhere. Some walked with canes. Some had artificial arms or legs. Some looked very tired, but their eyes were sharp. Their backs were straight. They stood like soldiers. Because that is what they were. Junho saw his old friend Taeyang. They served together in the war. Taeyang was 75 now. He lost his right arm in battle and had a metal one now. It was an old military model, strong and powerful. He saw Junho and smiled. "Like riding a bike, right?" Taeyang said, laughing. Junho laughed too. It felt good to laugh. It felt good to be with soldiers again. A platform rose up in the center of the area. Commander Hiyori appeared on it. She looked young compared to all the old veterans. She looked at them all with respect in her eyes. "I will not lie to you," she said. Her voice was strong and clear. "The situation is bad. Very bad. The Vrakoth have more ships than us. They have more weapons, they have more soldiers. If we fight them the normal way, we will lose, we will all die." Nobody moved. Nobody looked afraid. They all just listened. "But Admiral Deho has a plan," Hiyori continued. "He believes in you, not because you are strong or fast, not because you have the best weapons. He believes in you because you have something the Vrakoth do not have, something they cannot understand." An old woman in the crowd spoke up. Her name was Bora. She was 84 years old. She fought in the Titan Rebellion. She was small and thin, but her voice was strong. "What do we have?" she asked. Hiyori smiled. It was a fierce smile. A warrior smile. "Experience," she said. "Wisdom. Memory. You have fought in wars the Vrakoth never heard of. You have learned lessons they never learned. Your bodies are old, yes, but your minds are sharp. Sharper than any young soldier. Because you have had 40, 50, 60 years to think about war, to study it, to understand it." She pointed to the equipment stations around the area. "The Vrakoth think they are fighting a broken military," Hiyori said. "They think we are weak, they think we are finished. But they are wrong. They are not fighting a military. They are fighting 400 million people who never stopped thinking about war, who never stopped learning, who never stopped being warriors." The veterans started moving to the equipment stations. They picked up their weapons, pulse rifles, plasma guns, tactical computers. The weapons felt familiar in their hands. Heavy, but right. Like old friends they had not seen in years. Junho picked up his rifle and checked it. His fingers moved automatically. Load, check, safety, sight. He did not have to think about it. His body remembered. Muscle memory, they called it. Even after 40 years, his body knew what to do. Another veteran approached them. Her name was Hana. She was 68. She used to do special operations, secret missions, dangerous work. She looked at Junho and Taeyang. "What is our mission?" she asked Commander Hiyori. Hiyori pulled up a tactical map in the air. It showed the Vrakoth fleet coming toward Earth, red dots moving through space. "The Vrakoth expect us to defend," Hiyori said. "They expect us to hide and wait. They expect us to be afraid. We are not going to do that. We are going to attack. We are going to use everything you know, every trick, every tactic, every lesson from every war you ever fought." She looked at all the veterans around her. "Young soldiers are fast and strong," she said, "but you are smart and experienced. Together, we will show the Vrakoth something they have never seen before. We will show them what happens when you make humans angry, when you threaten our home." The veterans started getting ready. Some practiced with their weapons. Some studied tactical maps. Some just stood quietly, thinking, planning, preparing. Junho stood with Taeyang and looked at the other veterans. They did not look like a powerful army. They looked like grandparents, teachers, farmers, normal people. But they were not normal people. They were veterans. And veteran meant something special for humans. It meant someone who learned to fight and never forgot how. Someone who carried the weight of war in their heart forever. Someone who was always ready, even when they looked peaceful. Think the Vrakoth know what is coming? Taeyang asked with a smile. Chunyo smiled back. He felt alive. He felt young again. Not in his body, but in his spirit. The warrior inside him had woken up. No, he said. They have no idea. They think they are fighting against old people. They do not understand that we are not old soldiers. We are soldiers who have had a lifetime to get better at war. All around them, 400 million veterans were preparing. On Mars, on the moon, on space stations, in asteroid colonies. Everywhere humans lived, old warriors were picking up their weapons again, getting ready for one more battle. One last fight. The Vrakoth were about to learn a terrible lesson. They were about to learn that when you fight humans, you do not just fight the soldiers you can see. You fight every human who ever learned to be a soldier. Because humans never forget. They never stop training, they never stop being dangerous. The old guard was rising and they were ready for war. The Vrakoth flagship was huge. It was called Darkness Eternal. It was black like space itself and covered with weapons. Inside the ship, Supreme Commander Vexthar sat on his command chair. He had 6 eyes and they all looked at the screen in front of him. The screen showed Earth getting closer. Vexthar was happy. His mandibles clicked together. That was how his species smiled. The humans were weak. Their fleet was destroyed. This would be easy. His soldiers would land on Earth in one day. Then humanity would be finished. The Vrakoth Empire would rule this system. Report, he said to his officer. The officer looked nervous. His shell was darker than normal. That meant he was worried. Supreme Commander, something strange is happening. The humans are moving. All their cities and stations are organizing. It looks like they are preparing for something. Vexthar waved one of his claws. He did not care. They are just scared, he said. Let them run. Let them hide. It will not help them. But 4 hours later something happened. Something Vexthar did not expect. All the human stations went dark. Every asteroid base. Every mining colony. Every orbital platform. They all disappeared from the sensors. Then slowly they started appearing again. But now there were hundreds of them, thousands. The sensors showed phantom ships everywhere. Electronic warfare, Vexthar shouted. They are trying to trick us. Filter the false signals. But the Vrakoth computers could not filter them. The false signals were too good. Too perfect. They looked exactly like real ships. The tactical officers tried everything. Nothing worked. On Mars, an old man named Inho sat in front of many screens. He was 76 years old. His fingers hurt from arthritis, but his mind was sharp. Very sharp. He used to be an electronic warfare specialist. That meant he was an expert at tricking enemy sensors. He had not done this job in 20 years. But he never forgot how. Every day he thought about sensors and signals. He studied new technology. He played computer games about electronic warfare. He was ready. Next to him sat a woman named Nari. She was 69. She used to work with Inho. They were a good team. They looked at their screens and smiled. They are trying to filter our signals, Inho said. Switch to pattern Omega-7. Nari looked surprised. Omega-7? That is very old. We used that in the Belt Wars 50 years ago. Inho smiled. His old face had many wrinkles, but his eyes were bright. Exactly, he said. The Vrakoth have never seen it. It is not in their computers. They do not know how to stop it. On the Darkness Eternal, the Vrakoth officers panicked. The computers were failing. They could not tell which signals were real and which were fake. The fleet started breaking apart. Ships moved to attack phantom targets that did not exist. That is when the real attack began. Human ships came out of hiding. They had been waiting quietly. Now they attacked, but they did not attack like normal military forces. They attacked smart. They used tricks and tactics that were very old. Tactics the Vrakoth had never seen before. On the destroyer Valiant, Captain Soman was in command. She was 42 years old, young and strong, but she had 2 advisors with her, Shunho and Taeyang. The old veterans sat at stations next to her. They watched the battle screens. Soman saw a Vrakoth cruiser ahead. Her training told her to attack from the front, direct and strong. But Junho spoke first. Captain, turn 30 degrees to the right, he said calmly. That cruiser has a blind spot. 3rd section, bottom side. Soman looked at her tactical computer. It did not show a blind spot. The computer says there is no blind spot there, she said. Taeyang leaned forward, his metal arm connected to the ship computer. Information flowed into his mind. The computer only knows what the Vrakoth are doing now, he said. But I fought against that type of cruiser 40 years ago. They are Mark IV models. They never updated their sensors. When they accelerate in combat, they always have a blind spot at that angle. Always. Salman made her decision fast. She trusted these old soldiers. They knew things the computers did not know. Turn right 30 degrees, she ordered. All weapons ready. The Valiant moved exactly where Taeyang said. The Vrakoth cruiser never saw them. Junhyo and Taeyang were right. There was a blind spot. The human guns fired at close range. The Vrakoth shields failed. The cruiser was badly damaged. All across the battlefield, the same thing happened. Young human soldiers flew the ships, but old veterans gave them advice. Advice based on decades of experience. Advice based on memories of old wars. Advice that won battles. On the moon, old Bora was 84 years old. She coordinated boarding teams, soldiers who would enter enemy ships and fight inside them. She had done this many times in her life. She knew every trick, every weak point, every mistake soldiers made in close combat. Her teams moved like dancers. Fast and precise. They knew exactly where to go in Vrakoth ships. They knew where the weak walls were, where the important rooms were, where the Vrakoth would make mistakes, because Bora had spent 60 years studying ship design and close combat. On the Darkness Eternal, Vexthar watched his fleet falling apart. This was not possible. The humans were outnumbered. They had fewer ships, older weapons. They should be losing. But they were winning. How? What are they doing? He shouted at his officers. One officer looked at the data. His voice was shaking. Supreme Commander, they are not fighting like a normal military. They are fighting like they planned this battle for 40 years. Every move they make, they counter our moves before we make them. Every tactic we try, they already know how to stop it. Vexthar finally understood. The humans did not just call back their soldiers. They called back everyone who ever learned to fight. People who spent decades thinking about war. People who never stopped learning. People who got smarter and more dangerous every year, even when they were not fighting. He made a terrible mistake. He thought old warriors were weak. He thought age made soldiers useless. But for humans, age made them more deadly, because humans never forgot. They never stopped preparing. They never stopped being soldiers, even when they stopped fighting. The battle continued. More Vrakoth ships burned. More Vrakoth soldiers died. The mighty armada that seemed impossible to defeat was being destroyed, not by bigger weapons, not by more soldiers, but by wisdom, by experience, by the memories of old warriors who never really retired. Vexthar looked at his tactical screen. The red dots that showed his ships were disappearing. The blue dots that showed human ships were everywhere. Moving smart, fighting smart, winning. For the first time in his life, Vexthar felt fear. Real fear. He was not fighting against an army. He was fighting against a species that made war their culture, that never forgot a battle, that passed down knowledge from generation to generation, that treated every retired soldier as a teacher, not as someone useless. The Vrakoth came to conquer Earth. But they found something else. They found humanity, and humanity was far more dangerous than they ever imagined. 12 hours had passed since the battle began. The impossible was happening. The Vrakoth armada was running away. They were trying to escape from the Sol system. Their ships were burning. Their soldiers were dying. Not because humans had better weapons, but because humans were smarter. Because humans knew things the Vrakoth did not know. On the bridge of the GSS Aegis, Admiral Deho watched the screens. Around him, officers from many planets stood quietly. They could not believe what they were seeing. The humans were winning. Old humans. Retired soldiers. Grandparents and farmers and teachers. They were destroying a fleet that should have been unstoppable. Ambassador Kira from Thessia spoke. Her voice was very quiet. She sounded confused and amazed at the same time. How is this possible? She asked. Your veterans are so outnumbered. Most have not fought in decades. How are they winning? Commander Hiri smiled. She was proud of her people. So very proud. That is exactly why they are winning, Ambassador, she said. They had decades to think about war, to study it, to understand it deeply. Active soldiers learn by doing. Veterans learn by thinking. They had 40, 50, 60 years to think. She showed a video on the big screen. It showed a battle near the asteroid Ceres. A small human destroyer faced a large Vrakoth battle group. The human ship should have died quickly, but it did not. Watch, Shiori said. The human captain is young. Only 42 years old. 5 years of combat experience. But she has 2 veteran advisors with her. Watch what happens. The video showed the destroyer doing something strange. It exposed its weak rear section to enemy fire. It looked like a mistake. A fatal mistake. The Vrakoth ships moved to attack. But then at the last moment, the destroyer did something unexpected. It burned its engines in a pattern that made no sense. The Vrakoth ships tried to follow. But suddenly hidden human ships appeared. The Vrakoth had flown right into a trap. They were caught in crossfire. They burned. That maneuver, Hiyori explained, was suggested by a 78-year-old veteran named Gunsu. He used that exact tactic 42 years ago in the Belt Wars. After he retired, he spent decades refining it, thinking about it, improving it. The Vrakoth never saw it before because it is not in any military database. It exists only in the memory of our old warriors. Admiral Deho stepped forward. He looked at all the alien representatives. Every species in the galaxy treats soldiers the same way, he said. You train them. You use them. Then you retire them and forget about them. You think their knowledge is old. You think they are useless. Humanity never does this. He pointed to the screens showing thousands of battles happening at once. Every veteran in this battle has spent years thinking about their combat experience. They taught military history in schools. They studied their mistakes. They thought about what they would do differently. That is not just experience. That is wisdom. Weaponized wisdom. On Mars, Major Junho stood in the tactical center. He was coordinating 3 battle groups at the same time. His face looked tired. His gray hair was messy. But his eyes were bright and focused. He saw everything. Understood everything. A young officer spoke to him. Sir, Vrakoth carrier group approaching at grid 77 Alpha. Junho looked at the tactical map for 3 seconds. Only 3 seconds. Then he knew what to do. They are using the hammer and anvil formation, he said. I have seen it before. Many times. Tell our ships to use dispersal pattern Echo 3, then regroup at these coordinates. The young officer looked worried. She checked her computer. Sir, that pattern will leave our flanks exposed. The sides will be weak. Junho did not look worried at all. His voice was calm. Certain. For 8 seconds, yes, he said. But then their targeting computers will fail. Because we will not be where they expect us to be. Their formation is designed for predictable enemies. We will not be predictable. I have practiced this counter 17 times in simulations. Trust me, the young officer obeyed. She gave the orders. The human ships scattered in the pattern Junho described. For 8 seconds, they were vulnerable. The Vrakoth moved to attack. But then the targeting solutions failed. The Vrakoth computers could not adjust fast enough. The human ships regrouped behind the Vrakoth fleet. The carrier group was destroyed. On the Darkness Eternal, Supreme Commander Vexthar was desperate. His officers were panicking. His fleet was being destroyed piece by piece. Nothing they tried worked. Every tactic failed. The humans seemed to know everything before it happened. They are reading our doctrine like a book, one officer shouted. His voice was full of fear. Every formation we use, they counter it immediately. Every strategy we try, they already know how to stop it. Vexthar hit his command console with his claw. The sound echoed in the quiet bridge. Impossible, he shouted. Our tactics have evolved for a century. We have fought many wars. The officer looked at him. His eyes were filled with fear and understanding. Yes, Supreme Commander, he said quietly. But the humans we are fighting? Many of them have been studying warfare longer than our tactics have existed. They have analyzed every battle in galactic history. They have thought about scenarios we never even considered. They are not just using experience. They are using a lifetime of learning. A new communication channel opened. Admiral Deho appeared on the screen. The old human looked tired but strong. His eyes were hard and certain. Supreme Commander, Deho said quietly, you made an error. You looked at our veterans and saw old soldiers. We looked at them and saw something different. We saw 400 million people who had nothing but time to perfect their understanding of war. He leaned closer to the camera. Surrender now and I will give you fair terms, Deho said. Continue fighting and my people will continue teaching you the difference between having experience and having wisdom. Vexthar looked at his tactical display. His fleet was dying. The red dots that showed his ships were disappearing. The blue dots that showed human forces moved with perfect coordination, like they were reading his mind, like they had fought this exact battle 1,000 times before. For the first time in his career, Vexthar understood true fear. He was not fighting soldiers. He was fighting an entire civilization that treated war as their inheritance, that passed down military knowledge from generation to generation, that never let their veterans forget, that treated retired soldiers as teachers and advisors, not as useless old people. Every human who ever learned to fight was still dangerous, still learning, still preparing, even when they were not in uniform. Even when they were farming or teaching or raising children, they were always warriors, always ready. Vexthar reached for the communication controls. His claw was shaking. He had never been so afraid. He had never been so defeated. "All fleet elements stand down," he said. His voice was broken. "Defeated. We surrender." Around the solar system, Vrakoth ships stopped fighting. They powered down their weapons. They accepted defeat. The mighty armada that came to conquer Earth was broken, not by superior technology, not by more soldiers, but by something they never expected. By the collective wisdom of humanity's veterans. By 400 million people who never stopped being warriors. The battle was over. Earth was saved, and the galaxy had learned a lesson. Never underestimate humans. Never think their veterans are weak, because for humans, retirement is not the end of service. It is just the beginning of a different kind of warfare. A warfare of the mind. A warfare that only gets more deadly with time. The Vrakoth learned this lesson the hard way. They would never forget it. Just like humans never forgot anything about war. 3 days after the battle, the Galactic Coalition Council met. Leaders from all over known space gathered together. They came from hundreds of different planets. They needed to understand what happened. How did humanity win? How did old soldiers defeat a mighty empire? Admiral Deho stood before them all. Commander Hayori stood next to him. Behind them stood 12 veterans. These were the men and women who helped win the battle. Their hair was gray and white. Their faces had many wrinkles. They looked old and tired, but their eyes were sharp and proud. The alien representatives looked very different. They wore fancy uniforms. They looked young and strong. They were professional soldiers from their planets. But they looked at the human veterans with new respect. And a little bit of fear. Chancellor Thexmore spoke first. He was the leader of the council. His species had 3 voices that spoke together in harmony. Now all 3 voices sounded confused. "Admiral Deho, we must understand. Our computers predicted total defeat for humanity. You had fewer ships. Older soldiers. The Vrakoth should have won easily. Instead, you achieved a decisive victory. Please explain." Deho looked at Major Junho, who stood beside him. The old soldier gave a small nod. It meant Deho could speak freely, could tell the truth about why humans won. "Chancellor, the answer is simple," Deho began. "Most species view military experience as something that fades with age. You train warriors. You use them in battles. Then you retire them and lose all their expertise. Their knowledge disappears. Humanity has never done this." He gestured to the veterans standing with him. "These people have not fought in decades. Their bodies are slower than young soldiers. Their reflexes are not as fast. By every physical measurement, they should be weaker. Inferior." He paused. Let the words sink in. Then he continued. "But war is not just about physical ability. It is about knowledge, about recognizing patterns, about understanding not just how to fight, but why tactics work when they fail and how to change them for new situations." Commander Hayori stepped forward. She showed a holographic display. It showed data from the battle, numbers and graphs and videos. "Every veteran who answered our call brought decades of post-service experience," she explained. "After they retired, they did not stop thinking about war. They became teachers. They taught military history to children. They studied every battle in galactic history. They ran simulations in their heads thousands of times." She showed specific battles on the screen. Here, a 76-year-old electronic warfare specialist used tactics from 300 years ago. He knew the Vrakoth would not have those tactics in their database. Here, an 84-year-old coordinator predicted enemy movements based on psychology she studied for 50 years. Major Junho spoke next. His voice was strong and clear. It carried the weight of a lifetime of experience. "When I retired 40 years ago, I thought I was done with war. he said. But I was wrong. I thought about it every day. When I saw news reports about battles, I analyzed them. When I played games, I played military strategy games. When I read books, I read about military history. He looked around at all the alien leaders. I taught tactics to school children, he continued. I wrote papers about military history. I ran theoretical scenarios with other veterans. We never stopped being soldiers. We just stopped carrying weapons. When we picked up weapons again, we brought 40 years of wisdom with us. Ambassador Kira from Thessia stood up. Her purple eyes were wide with understanding. Are you saying human veterans are more dangerous than active soldiers? She asked. Deho shook his head. No, Ambassador. I am saying the combination is devastating. Young soldiers provide physical capability and adaptability. They are fast and strong. Veterans provide wisdom and strategic depth. They are smart and experienced. Together, they create something unprecedented. A military force where every battle benefits from centuries of collective knowledge. He showed footage from the battle, video after video of veteran advisors predicting enemy actions perfectly, ancient tactics defeating modern technology, experience trumping raw power. Deho continued speaking. The Vrakoth made a big error. They thought we lost our ability to fight when we lost our ships. They did not understand that our greatest strength is not weapons or ships. It is our refusal to forget. He pointed to the veterans again. Every person here has made mistakes in combat, has watched friends die, has survived situations that should have killed them. Everyone has spent decades thinking about those experiences, learning from them, refining their understanding of warfare. Chancellor Thexmore's three voices became one, a single solemn tone. You have revealed something profound, Admiral. We have been discarding our most valuable military resource, our veterans. Deho nodded. With respect, Chancellor, that is why we won. The Vrakoth looked at our veterans and saw weakness. We looked at them and saw 400 million people who spent their entire lives preparing for one more battle. He turned to face the full assembly. Humanity has fought more wars than most species can count. We have made every mistake possible, and we learned from all of them. Our veterans carry that knowledge, not just in their minds, in their instincts, in their reflexes, in their very way of thinking. Sergeant Taeyang stepped forward. He had been quiet until now. His metal arm gleamed under the lights. If I may speak, Admiral? He asked. Deho nodded. Taeyang looked at the council. There is something else you should understand. When you are young, you fight with passion and energy. When you have experience, you fight with purpose and precision. But when you are a veteran, truly a veteran, you fight with something else. He paused. Everyone waited for him to continue. You fight with the memory of every friend you lost, he said quietly. Every mistake you made. Every lesson you learned. You fight not because you want to. You fight because you know exactly what is at stake. You know exactly what it costs. That knowledge does not make you weaker. It makes you absolutely lethal. The chamber fell silent. Leaders from dozens of species looked at the human veterans with new eyes. They understood now. These were not just old people. These were warriors who had a lifetime to perfect their craft. Warriors who never stopped learning. Warriors who got more dangerous every year. Ambassador Kira spoke again. Her voice was soft and respectful. You have changed the nature of galactic warfare, Admiral Deho. Every species now knows that humanity's military strength does not diminish with time. It accumulates. It grows. Deho allowed himself a small smile. That was always true, Ambassador. We just never had to prove it so dramatically before. Later, after the council meeting ended, Major Junho stood on the observation deck of the Aegis. He looked out at Earth through the big window. The blue planet was beautiful, safe, still free, saved by the same people who swore to protect it decades earlier. Commander Hayori joined him. She followed his gaze to Earth. What are you thinking, Major? She asked. Junho smiled. His weathered face had many wrinkles, but it looked happy and peaceful. I'm thinking that I'm glad I kept my garden tools and my rifle in the same storage unit, he said. Both are important. Both are part of who we are, Hiyori laughed. And when you go back to your garden on Mars? He turned to look at her. His expression was serious but content. I will tend my tomatoes and teach young colonists about farming, he said, but I will also keep my rifle clean and my mind sharp. Because now the galaxy knows the truth. Humanity does not produce soldiers who become civilians. We produce civilians who never stop being soldiers. He looked back at Earth. His home. His planet. The planet he would always protect. And that makes all the difference, he said quietly. All over the solar system, veterans were going home, back to their farms, back to their schools, back to their families. They would hang up their uniforms again. They would put away their weapons again. They would return to their peaceful lives, but they would never really retire. Not truly. They would keep studying, keep thinking, keep preparing, because that is what human veterans do. They are always ready, always learning, always warriors even in peace. The galaxy learned an important lesson that day. Never underestimate humans. Never think their veterans are weak. Never believe that age makes them less dangerous. Because for humans, every retired soldier is a teacher. Every veteran is a library of military knowledge. Every old warrior is still a warrior, just one with more wisdom. The Vrekoth Empire learned this lesson the hard way. They came to conquer Earth and found themselves facing something they never expected. Not just an army, but an entire civilization that never forgot how to fight. That treated war as a skill to be preserved and passed down through generations. Victory had seemed impossible. But humanity's veterans took the field, and they showed the galaxy what true experience means, what true wisdom means, what it means to be a human veteran. It means never forgetting, never stopping, never truly retiring from the warrior's path, and that makes all the difference.